The fame and fortune that James Hetfield enjoyed were because his family put him on the path of music.
I was really into music. My dad had already split, so mom was definitely supportive.
It wasn't always rosy, so when he amassed fame and fortune and started his own family, he wanted things to be different. This is the lifestyle James Hetfield currently lives with his family. Let's go back, way back, to when it all started. James Allen Hetfield was born on August 3rd, 1963, into a house that wasn't just a home, it was a fortress of faith. And man, this wasn't your typical Sunday school vibe. This was Christian Science. Now, for most of us, getting sick means a trip to the doctor or popping a pill. For young James, medicine was the enemy. His parents, Virgil the truck driver and Cynthia the opera singer, were devout. They believed that pain was an illusion and that only spiritual healing could cure the body. Imagine being a kid in public school, forced to sit out of health class or gym because learning about the human body was considered against the rules. James wasn't just the quiet kid, he was the outsider. He had to stand in the hallway while the other kids learned how their bodies worked. He was isolated, feeling like a freak, watching the world through a pane of glass he wasn't allowed to break. That tension, that feeling of being trapped, that's the first layer of the armor he'd eventually wear on stage. But the real cracks in the foundation started when he was 13. One day, the stability vanished. Virgil left. No big explanation, no closure, just gone. The divorce in 1976 shattered the family dynamic. James was left with a feeling of abandonment that would later bleed into tracks like Dyer's Eve. He felt betrayed by the man who was supposed to be the pillar of the house. But the universe wasn't done kicking him while he was down. 3 years later, the ultimate darkness descended. His mother, Cynthia, got sick. And we aren't talking about the flu. It was cancer. This is where the story gets heavy, where the James Hetfield we know was truly forged in fire. Because of their faith, Cynthia refused treatment. No chemo, no surgery, no painkillers, just prayer. James, at 16 years old, had to watch the most important woman in his life wither away in agony, holding on to a faith that, in his eyes, was failing her in real time. She died in 1980. Can you imagine the rage, the confusion? He was an orphan of circumstance, living with his half-brother David, staring at the ceiling and wondering why his God let this happen. That trauma didn't just make him sad, it made him angry. It planted a seed of resentment against blind faith that would later explode in songs like The God That Failed. James didn't have therapy. He had a guitar, but he'd started on piano, and he wasn't exactly too fond of it. He messed around with his brother's drums, but when he picked up that guitar, he found his voice. He took all that isolation, that hatred for the health class exile, that abandonment from his father, and the grief of his mother's death, and he channeled it into the strings. He didn't just want to play music. He wanted to exorcise demons. He turned to the heavier sounds, Aerosmith, Sabbath, Motorhead. He found that the only thing louder than the screaming in his head was a Marshall stack turned to 11.
Of people there a little bit. They talk about how diverse they are and things like that. And,
The shy, blushing kid from Downey was gone. In his place was a young man building a shell of pure iron, ready to take that pain and shove it right back in the world's face. And this was really where everything started. But the next few years would determine if music was just a recreational hobby or what would make him a star. However, the guy who gave us the battery riff once upon a time hated playing the piano and having to practice and master scales. He tried bashing his brother David's drum kit for a while, but it didn't click. He didn't want to be hidden behind shells. He wanted to be the focal point. He wanted to be Steven Tyler. When he finally gripped a guitar at 14, he wasn't just learning chords, he was arming himself with a weapon. He ground his way through the high school circuit with bands like Obsession and Phantom Lord. Here's a deep cut for the real diehards. Back in the Obsession days, his pal Ron McGovney wasn't even a bassist. He was the world's most glorified roadie, standing in the back of a garage, flicking light switches on and off to simulate a stadium light show. It was total amateur hour, but the fire was already burning. Then came Leather Charm. This is the lost chapter where James tried to be a pure frontman. No guitar, just a mic. He felt naked and hated. Every second of it. That band died a quick death, leaving James in a silence that a loudmouthed Danish kid was about to shatter. In May 19th of 81, James answered a classified ad in the Recycler. He met Lars Ulrich, a rich tennis kid with a drum kit that literally fell apart if you looked at it sideways. Lars couldn't keep a beat to save his life, and James walked away thinking, absolutely not. But Lars had a golden ticket. He'd talked his way onto the Metal Massacre compilation without actually having a band. He called James back with the ultimate bait. I've got a record spot. They bonded over the new wave of British heavy metal, while the rest of LIA was busy teasing their hair and applying eyeliner. They dragged McGovney in on bass and recruited a human powder keg named Dave Mustaine. By the time they recorded Hit the Lights, the shy kid was dead. James was screaming with a rasp that sounded like he'd been gargling broken glass. The financial glow-up that followed is the stuff of legend. In the early 80s, James was worth about as much as a case of cheap beer. When they signed to Megaforce for Kill 'Em All, they were essentially living on deli sandwiches. The game changed in 1984 when Elektra bought out their contract. By the time the Master of Puppets tour wrapped in 87, James was likely sitting on his first million. But the 90s turned him into a titan. The 19 to 94 contract renegotiation is famous in industry circles. Metallica reportedly secured a $10 million signing bonus each, alongside a massive bump to a 20% royalty rate. By the time they stood in front of 1.6 million people in Moscow in 19 to 91, James had evolved from a broke kid in a Norwalk garage to a man with a net worth hovering around $25 million. Today, with a career earnings trajectory that makes most CEOs look like interns, his net worth sits comfortably between $300 and $400 million. Music didn't just give him a voice, it gave him an empire. But as a king, he needed a queen and heirs of his musical heritage, and he would find that in the early 90s. It was 19 to 92, and the Black Album tour was going on. It was a tour that Hetfield would never forget. We're talking about the biggest musical event on the planet. James was living the life of a god, excess, booze, absolute chaos. But backstage, amidst the madness, there's this wardrobe assistant from Argentina. Her name was Francesca Tomasi. She wasn't just another face in the crowd. She was the anchor he didn't know he needed. They get hitched in 97, and for a minute, it looks like a happy ending. But here's the thing about demons. They don't care if you're married. And they definitely don't care if you're a rock star. The early 2000s hit, the Saint Anger era. If you're a real fan, you know this wasn't just a bad snare drum sound, it was a bad life sound. James wasn't just drinking, he was spiraling. And this is where Francesca became the hero of the story. She didn't just sit there and watch him destroy himself, she did the unthinkable. She kicked James Hetfield, the frontman of Metallica, out of his own house. Imagine that. The guy who commands stadiums of 50,000 people was told, "Get out, and don't come back until you're fixed." That was the wake-up call. James later admitted that fear was his motivator, not the fear of death, but the terrifying fear of losing his family. That ultimatum forced him into rehab and saved him from becoming another rock and roll casualty statistic. That commitment is permanent, by the way. You see that F tattoo on his left hand? That's for her, a permanent reminder of who pulled him back from the edge. But saving his life was only step one. Step two? Escaping the toxicity. And this is where the story takes a weird turn involving bees? In 2016, James moved the family from the rock epicenter of San Francisco to the quiet mountains of Vail, Colorado. Why? It wasn't just for the view. James got real about it. He felt judged. He cited the elitist attitude of the Bay Area, where he was looked down upon for his love of hunting and the outdoors, so he traded the hipsters for nature. In Colorado, Papa Het isn't just a metal god. He's a dedicated beekeeper, a gardener, and a guy who builds custom hot rods in his garage, some of which are so good they're sitting in the Peterson Automotive Museum right now. They raised 3 kids in that fortress, Callie, Castor, and Marcella. And you know the apple didn't fall far from the tree. You remember that acoustic For a Cure gig? That was James looking like a proud Papa Bear playing acoustic guitar while his daughter Callie sang Adele's Crazy for You. And his son, Castor? The kid is a beast behind the kit for his own hard rock band, Bastardane. James is actually pretty hands-on with him, reportedly sharing his own tour horror stories to help Castor avoid the industry pitfalls that almost took him out. But don't think James is just the cool rock dad 24/7. He's still a dad. In 2024, he joked on stage that the very first concert he took his daughters to wasn't Slayer or Sabbath. It was Hannah Montana. And the kicker? The mighty Hetfield admitted he actually fell asleep during the show. It sounds perfect, doesn't it? The redemption arc, the quiet life in the mountains. But life? Life is heavy, man. Even the strongest iron can rust. In 2022, after 25 years of marriage, the news broke that James had filed for divorce from Francesca, citing irreconcilable differences. It hit the fan base like a punch to the gut. Francesca later said she was extremely saddened by the split, marking the end of the relationship that literally saved his life. It's a somber reminder that even heroes bleed, and happily ever after is a daily battle, not a guarantee. They remain on good terms for the kids, co-parenting the legacy they built. But that chapter, the one where the wardrobe assistant tamed the beast, has officially closed. But as a rock star with a rock star wife and rock star kids, it only makes sense to reside in rock star housing. When he was in Vail, Colorado, he didn't just own a house. It was a fortress of solitude. We're talking about a $27.5 million masterpiece sitting at the base of the resort on Rockledge Road. It's massive, 11,500 square feet, 7 bedrooms. But the luxury isn't the point. The point is the silence. This is a guy who has lived his life at 120 decibels. Now he's got a ski-in, ski-out retreat near the European village where he can hunt, beekeep, and just breathe. But for us gearheads, the crown jewel isn't the master bedroom. It's the garage. It's not just parking. It's a fully operational auto body shop with neon signs and mountain views where he escapes the music business to build things that can't talk back. But before he found peace in the Rockies, there was war in Marin County. You guys remember the Rocking H Ranch? This wasn't just a home, it was a battleground. Back in 2008, James did what any private person would do. He built a fence, a 300-foot metal wall to keep vandals off his land. The problem? It cut off a popular hiking trail. The local community exploded. Suddenly, the hero of the downtrodden was the rich rock star villain blocking nature lovers. The tension was thick. People were protesting. Lawyers were involved. It was ugly. But here's the release, and here is the measure of the man. Instead of fighting a rich guy's war forever, James compromised. He worked with the county, helped fund a $650,000 bypass called the 680 Trail, and then dropped the ultimate mic drop. He and his family donated over 1,000 acres of that prime real estate to the Marin Agricultural Land Trust. He literally gave the land back to the earth. He didn't just build a wall, he built a legacy. But if he's living like a rock star, he's definitely riding like one. James doesn't just collect cars like some bored billionaire, he births them. He calls his collection Reclaimed Rust, and every single one has a soul. You have to look at the Voodoo Priest. It's a 37 Lincoln Zephyr, but the story is haunting. James found it in a driveway where it had been sitting since 1972, waiting for a Vietnam soldier who never came home. James resurrected it, painted it candy apple red, and gave that soldier's ghost a ride worthy of a king. Then there's the Black Pearl. This thing is a hallucination. It's loosely based on a '48 Jaguar, but it's actually hand-built from scratch. It looks like a spaceship from the 30s, or the Aquarius, a 1934 Packard that looks like liquid silver, inspired by French Art Deco. But for the real superfans, you want the deep cuts? Look at Skyscraper, his purple '53 Buick Skylark. Look closely at the gauges. They're made to look like Fender guitars, picks. The gas pedal? It's a kick drum pedal. And get this, he has a custom ESP guitar and a Mesa Boogie amp painted in the same purple to match the car. That is an obsession. And finally, the Stredge, a '56 Ford F100 pickup. It's rough, it's tough, and it's a tribute to the straight-edge lifestyle he adopted to save his own life. He didn't keep these locked away either. He donated the whole fleet to the Peterson Automotive Museum. He built them, he loved them, and then he let them go, just like the songs. There you have it, the type of life that James Hetfield lived through while creating his own. What fascinated you the most about his life? Let us know what you think in the comments section. And if you'd like us to talk about the lifestyle of any other rock stars, let us know who in the comments section, and while you're at it, do hit that subscribe button and hit the like button.